Hey guys, welcome to another WellFit Wednesday. Today we're talking about a couple different things that I'm pretty excited about, and they are my favorite core exercise, what I would call my favorite core exercise, and it might not be exactly what you expect. And the other one would be sneaky reasons that your back may be hurting from squatting. Now, this might not be you. Anybody who says, listen, this is the end-all be-all solution for everything that is this or that dysfunction that you have when you exercise is just wrong, because there's no way someone can actually know about your body. But if you're the kind of person who experiences more back tightness after you're doing a lot of squatting, or specifically after you're doing sumo deadlifting, then this might be a trick that works for you. Also, we found that, we just got in recently our shirts, so WellFit Life shirts. They are on sale right now. We have long sleeve and short sleeve, and they're Under Armour, so they're super, super stretchy, a little bit fantastic. And the big ones up here are $35, and the short sleeve shirts are $30. So they're just really, really, really comfortable. So pick one up. So we're going to get a little bit more into exercise, and there's all kinds of things that you can do to train your core. But some of the best exercises that we found don't have anything to do with crunches. And there are some people in the camp that say, well, you should never do an isolated ab exercise. And there's some people who say you should always do an isolated ab exercise at the end. And as always, there's a place for everything. So sometimes you should do an sometimes you should do an isolated ab exercise, and sometimes you shouldn't. But sometimes they can really help you. Now, our version of what might be our favorite ab exercise may surprise you a little bit, because one of my favorite core exercise is a heavy goblet squat. Anything 100 pounds or over held up here in your chest is a really, really, really good core exercise. And the reason is that your core is not just about your six pack; it's about the muscles all the way around your core, and that's the outer layer. But it's also about the way that your diaphragm interacts with the muscles around it and with your spine. So when you breathe, when you get in a big breath of air on a heavy squat, you pressurize, your diaphragm presses downward if it's working well, and presses into your pelvic floor and against your spine, and the whole thing creates this pressurized balloon inside your pelvis. So your body truly learns how to actually stabilize your pelvis, because you can't actually stabilize. So think about kids as an example. So when kids run around, you will never, ever, ever see a kid sucking their stomach in. You will always see them with somewhat of a round belly, and it's a good thing. It's where our bodies were actually designed to move. So check this out. Goblet squat, tuck that foot down, grab it, go down. Okay, I can understand why a goblet squat is so squat, a 300-pound back squat, because I can do a 250-pound back squat without any issue for reps. But this 100-pound goblet squat is crazy. So the magic behind this is that when you actually work and you do the work with this thing held up, you've got to pressurize your upper spine to be able to keep that thing in position, and you've got to be able to pressurize your core. Your body will naturally take in a big breath, and you'll create internal tension and external tension, and you'll just feel your whole spine getting locked in like a rod. Fantastic exercise. So that's our favorite. If you've never done a goblet squat with anything over 100 pounds, then you need to at least try a set of 10 holding 100 pounds in goblet squat position. And if you're the kind of guy who back squats 500 pounds, you might need a 150-pound kettlebell. But I guarantee you it will be extremely humbling. And I've seen a lot of people really open up their hips doing it. Now, the second thing that we want to talk about is exercises to be able to open up your hips, legs, back after doing a lot of squatting. So if you're generally a functional person, maybe you have a pretty high squat, there are these little muscles on your inner thighs called adductors, which can get kind of nasty. So it's known, and they've done lots of studies where they'll show competitive squatters will go down, and when they start testing their rep range, testing their 1RM hard, or testing any rep range to their full capacity, they start to overuse their adductors. It's the reason why we see people's knees start to come in. But either way, even if your knees don't come in, you will still slightly overuse your adductors if you're squatting heavy. It's part of the process. So you might be going along fine, squatting, and then 4 weeks in, all of a sudden you start to get tightness in your back because you haven't taken a day off. Maybe it's because your back is tight. More likely, it's your adductors all the way up by your hips. So we've got a video for you to check out real quick
So this position that we're doing all day long where we're sitting down, your adductors can get tight. So I want to give you 2 exercises that you can do to be able to open up your adductors. And if you do have some tightness in your back, try these out, and chances are, if it is the issue, then this will release it almost immediately. So number 1 would be a quadruped sit back. So you're going to get on all fours, like so. You're going to take your feet kind of wide because you're trying to stretch out in here, and then you're going to sit back, keeping your back mostly flat. Now, if your adductors are tight, you're going to feel tightness all the way up by your groin, kind of behind your leg, and you will have a tendency to feel tightness in one side more than the other. So if you feel tightness in one side more than the other, pay attention to that and work with it accordingly. If you're going to look at it from the side, it can look like this. Back is going to stay mostly flat. I'm going to push back, allow myself to stretch into my hips. Now, if you think about it, this is the movement that babies work on all the time, right? Because babies are always down here like this, and they're playing, they're hanging out in this position, so they get this stretch all day long. Adults, not so much. The other one that you can do is to lay on your back. Take your leg like this, open it up, let it come back to the middle. You're keeping your pelvis stable. Open, back up, open. You're going to find that one.
Okay, so basically what we're looking at there is that those are the 2 different exercises to be able to open up your hips. So if you actively feel tight or restricted, or you might not even feel any groin tightness, but you feel like when I do specifically sumo deads I get really tight, it's probably because your adductors are tight. Your adductors are tight probably because they're weak compared to the rest of your muscles, or because they're overactive because you've been pushing really, really hard for a long time. So if you do a video yourself and you notice that your knees collapse, or you're doing step-ups or whatever, and you start to notice that things collapse, or you just start getting a lot of tightness on your adductors on the inside, then this may indeed be your problem. So remember, 2 of our favorites are the heavy goblet squat. Anything over 100 pounds is good, done for reps. 5 to 15 is a great place to start. And then remember to work on your adductors in those 2 positions that we just showed you, specifically that on all fours position to thread it forward and backwards. And those 2 things should really have you rocking a heavier squat. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to check us out. Visit wellfitlife.me if you have any more questions. You can also email mywellfitlife@gmail.com. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great night, and we'll see you next week for another WellFit Wednesday.